All right, so we are just so thrilled and so pleased to have Soul Candy here with us. I've been friends with them for quite some time. We've known each other at CSL, and she used to work with the Beckwiths and just different things like that. So she's just a light unto the world. You're new to me, but I've been listening to you guys, and they're just wonderful. So please give them a round. And they do have music out there, so if you would support them and us and their music they're doing, not that we get any of that, but supporting them, we'd appreciate anything that you can do to them. But I've been listening to them while I was in class, and oh my God, we are in for a treat. Soul Candy.
Oh Thank you. That was very nice. That really speaks to my soul. I think Soul Candy is a great name. It's time for our journey of youth. Is there any youth today? Let's say a prayer. As Harmony members, I invite you to envision a growing church. Let's take a deep, relaxing breath. In and out. As together, we hold the vision of Harmony Spiritual Center, filled with the joy and laughter of new families and young people. As we think and imagine together, so it becomes, and so it is.
So it is.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, God. Thank you. Good morning, beloveds. Good morning. So good to see all of you beautiful faces out there. Thank you. Oh my God, beautiful. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. We welcome you and thank you, those of you who are watching us from Facebook or watching us from the website, wherever you may be watching, we thank you so much for being here with us this morning. So as I was thinking about this talk and hello. I love it. Thank you guys so much. I mean, without you, Lord knows where I'd be right now. I mean, I'd be here. So anyway, as I was thinking about the talk today and what I want to share with you, I was thinking about connection. And I was talking with someone, I've been talking with several people over the last few weeks I'm taking a leadership class that you all are sending me to. And one of the assignments was for me to interview several people that I knew and that knew me in this leadership capacity, and to ask them some questions about what they thought and give me some feedback as to where I might be able to improve. So as I was getting some of that feedback, one of the people talked about wanting to understand more how we take this spirituality that we feel so well and so big and so gloriously on Sunday morning, how do we take that out into the community and in our lives? And so, as you know, I was living in Asia for 11 years, 5 of it in Saigon and 6 in Thailand. And one of the questions that comes all the time is, what are the differences between people that live in Saigon, Vietnamese, Thai, the US? What's the difference? What do you see culturally that is different? And so I want to speak to that a little bit, but I'm going to tell a story. One of the, when you're traveling like that, there are expats, meaning expatriates, people that are not from that country, that are also living there. And so when you have expats, they kind of gather together and, just talk about how things are, how things have gone. And so one of the gentlemen who's an expat, he was from New York. I don't even remember his first name because we just always called him Wolf. That was his last name. And he was a cyclist, and his whole thing was creating bamboo bicycles. That's what he did. He created bamboo bicycles. And so he was about to marry a Vietnamese woman. And he wanted to take her back home to New York to see his family, to see what America was like, and all of that. So so they went, apparently had a great time, but when they came back, I got in conversation with her. And I said, what's the one thing, if you could just say one thing that really impacted you about America, about what you saw in the US? What would that be? What would you say? The thing that impacted her the most, that she would thought was so amazing, was our crosswalks. Hello? The fact that we actually stop for pedestrians, because they don't. If you've ever been there, if you've been there in the war, if you've ever been there, it's a motorcycle or a cycle community. So everybody rides a motorcycle. And one of the things that impacted me, that when I stepped off the plane, what I saw, there was a couple of things, but one of the biggest things was how many motorcycles were on the road. And it's like watching a school of fish. They all just kind of move at the same, they just kind of glide in and out, and it's just, you have to see it. Pictures do not do it justice. But there's pedestrians walking in and through that. Yes. And you think, oh my gosh, how are they getting across the street? Well, the cyclists are aware that they're there, and they're just moving around them. Now, if you're walking through that, you're not going to zoom through because you've got to give them an opportunity to go around you. So everybody just kind of walks slowly through, assuming that the cyclists are going to weave around them. So what I learned, and what I want to share, is it's not so much about the differences, because the differences don't matter. What does matter is how much we're the same. And whether they have crosswalks or whether they are watching for a pedestrian, they care for one another. It shows up differently, but it's the same. The heart is always the same, that they care for one another. They don't even have an emergency system. If there was an accident on the road right there, we have fire, police, ambulance, we have everyone that shows up to help. They do not. They simply help one another. If something happens, a person will stop, pick the person up, put them on the back of their motorcycle, squeeze them into 2 people if they can't sit up, and take them to a hospital. So they're their own system. The point is, it's not about the differences. They care for one another. It's about the same. So when we talk about, my title for today is just New Beginnings. What do we want to have happen in 2020? And how do we connect with one another? Because that is what matters. The best times that I had in every place that I ever went was my connection with the people there. My connection with the people there. And I could not do it if they didn't want to connect with me as well. The heart that you see in people is absolutely amazing. And that is the focus for us when we look at how do we want to move into 2020, what do we want to do, how do we know, how do we take our spirituality out there, what is our spirituality, what do we believe? As a collective, we believe there's one presence, there's one power in the universe and in our lives, and that we are one with that we are individualized expressions of the one. That in and of itself connects us to everything. Do you realize that this morning, everything that was happening is connected? I have all kinds of Mother Teresa comments in my talk this morning. We didn't talk, and yet your song was about the Mother Teresa song. We didn't talk about that. There's no need. When Ken and I talk about the music and the ministry and how we're going to connect up, we don't have to bother with it. It doesn't matter what my talk title is going to be about. It doesn't make any sense anyway. It's going to be what it's going to be. But the music has always been perfect. The people who show up, the guests, their music has always been perfect. Why? Why? Because we're already connected. I don't have to sit down and control it. There's nothing I have to do. All I have to do is show up and allow you to show up in your space, in your spiritual being, in your spiritual knowingness. So the thing becomes that we are one with God. It's about our thoughts, our actions, and our gratitude. We were talking this morning in our class that if our only prayer, if the only thing we ever prayed was thank you, God, that's all we ever need to say. That's all we ever need to say is thank you, God, because the universe is abundant, and it is abundantly supplying our lives. So what happens is, and as we are bringing things into our lives, what matters in terms of what you are individually seeing is what you believe. What are your core beliefs? We talk about this all the time. So at the beginning of the year, we simply want to take a look at our core beliefs. And our core beliefs are the way that we look at the world. Is the world basically good? Are good things coming my way? Is that how you think? Do you basically feel safe in a world where there's a lot going on? Do you feel safe? So what are your core beliefs? And we'll talk about that. I've got a form out there that you can take away and complete just if you want to think about what you actually believe. Because what you believe is what you're drawing into our lives. But the question becomes, how do our core beliefs play out? Why do they matter? Because if we're talking about taking what we know, what we believe out into the world, so that our spirituality is always around us and we're consciously aware. See, we're connected to God. There's nothing we need to do about that. What we are doing is trying to be more consciously aware of that and more deliberate in the way that we approach our lives. So what are core beliefs? How do they manifest or help us manifest the life that we want? So a core belief that I have, I'm sure it came from my parents, and probably my personality. I feel worthy. I walk into a room and I feel like I belong. And if it turns out that someone in the room doesn't like me, I'm genuinely surprised and don't really care. Because, it's your loss. So, my sister, however, raised with the same family, does not have the feeling of being worthy. She did not have that. She's passed away now, but she did not have that. So how it played out in our lives is when I went to Thailand, and I knew that I wanted to, I was in Saigon for 5 years, but then I wanted to do my music. I'm a singer as well. So when I went to Thailand, I went there specifically to see if I could make a living with my music. And I just had the belief that I could do it. I talked with some friends of mine who were F&B, food and beverage managers, and those are the ones at resorts who booked the band. So before I left Saigon, I talked to several of them and asked them what do F&B managers look for, and they gave me some information, so I had that with me when I went. I booked several, I just called up, I just said, where are the, let me back up. One of the things he said was, or they said, there were several of them, don't book yourself into a place that doesn't have the band as a line item in their budget, right? If they don't already have money for a band, what they're going to want you to do is take a percentage of the door. Never do that. Because, so only go to 5-star or above. I didn't even know there was anything greater than a 5-star. Turns out that there are. Who knew? Yeah, 7-star is its own island. A 7-star resort has its own island, just so you know. Anyway, so that was one of the things I did. So I called up these resorts, 5-star and higher, and I said, hey, I didn't even have a band yet. But I said, hey, I have a band. And, you know, I'd like to come and talk to you about that. Anyway, I made all of these appointments. I got hired by several of them because as it turns out, they're always looking for a good band. And they didn't even know whether I was good or not, but what they were counting on was that I would show up. That's really what they wanted. So I immediately got busy and put a band in. And if you're a musician, you know it's easy to find music. If you're going to pay musicians, you can pretty well find them. So I put that together. That's the kind of word, that's what worthiness, feeling like you belong, feeling like you belong. You just gotta walk in and act like you're supposed to be there. My sister, on the other hand, who was really so smart, she always worked, how do you say, in the second position. She was always a helper. She never wanted to stand out front. She always worked for jerks. People who never appreciated what she did, ever. And basically she would run whatever office she was in. But it was like they never appreciated her, and she never stood up for herself and said that it wasn't okay to be treated that way. So your core belief, how does it show up? It shows up that way. How you see and interact with the world is based on what you believe about the world and yourself. If you believe that you're basically worthy, you walk into every place knowing that your good is flowing to you. If you walk into a place knowing that you're connected, you walk into a place seeing the face of God in everyone you look at. No matter how they're actually showing up, doesn't matter. You still know the truth about them. That's how we take it out into the world. That's why it's important for you to know what your core beliefs are. When you know what your core beliefs are, you get to change whatever it is that's happening to you from a knowing position. So if you know that you don't feel worthy, you get to work on that. If you know that your core belief is, I think the world is a scary place, you can affirm differently because we know the truth, right? Because we're connected, and God is always with you, so there's nothing to be afraid of. No matter what happens, you're always surrounded by God. It doesn't matter. God is with you. Romans 12:2 in the Bible says, be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind. So knowing what your core beliefs are, and if they're not working for you, this is what we get to do. Change our mind. Change our thinking. Change our belief. And have the life that we're looking for. If we live from the core, the I am, if you're living from the core, your beliefs and your thoughts, all of that is what you become. Mother Teresa, I had this story about Mother Teresa, and I love this story, and I don't even know if it's true. I was never able to actually find it or duplicate it, but I'm going to tell it anyway because it sounds like something she would have done. So she was a fundraiser. She was always someone who she knew her worth and the worth of everyone around her, and that she needed to do something in service. And those who had should be given to those who did not. That was just her core belief. So she was talking to this businessman, and she wanted him to donate some money. He knew why she was there. And he'd already decided in his mind, you know what, I've already given, enough, and I'm not giving, I'm not doing that. So she walks in and she says, we're building this orphanage, whatever the fundraiser was for, and I'd like for you to donate. And he said, yes, Mother, I understand, but I really can't do that this time. I can't do it. She said, okay, all right, let us pray. So she went into some kind of prayer. Right. So finished, and she said, okay, so I would really like for you to donate to this cause, because it's a worthy cause, and I understand what I really do, but I can't. We don't have it in the budget. We didn't put it out, for you this year, so I really can't do it. Okay, that's fine. Let us pray. She did this about 5 times, and he finally said, fine. How much do you need? She knew her core belief was in the power of prayer. Didn't make any difference what he said. She was going to walk away with what she needed because God told her that's what's going to happen. She knew that already. You understand? So that's what happens when you know whatever it is you know, positively or negatively. You know what you know. So if what you know isn't bringing you what you need, know something different. Right? Just know something different for yourself. Because the truth is, the universe is abundant, and you are one with that abundance. You are one with the source of all things in this universe. So if you don't have what you want, change your mind about it. What we want to do, and here I just want to do her thoughts, her quote, one of Mother Teresa's quotes. Again, for walking out into the world and taking our spirituality with us, do it anyway. And I didn't put the whole thing just to give you a couple of stanzas from it. You can look it up if you'd like to read the whole stanza. But this is from Mother Teresa, and she says, people are often unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of being selfish, having ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. Do what you know to do anyway. Because the thing is this, you're not doing things outside of you. You're doing what you are being told to do. You don't need a permission. You don't need approval. You already have it. You already have it. So do it anyway. That's how we walk out in the world. You walk out and both Terry and David, when they're praying or talking with us, they're always encouraging us to do random acts of kindness, to say hello to the cashier, whatever it is. Part of the thing is this. What stops us a lot is we'll look at somebody's face, they're frowning up, and we immediately think it has to do with you. So I don't want to now say something or smile at them or give them some kind of encouragement because they're upset with me. You know what? They probably didn't even see you. They probably didn't see you because of whatever is on their mind that is bothering them. And perhaps that smile that you were wanting to give them was the thing that they needed. So don't stop yourself. When your heart is telling you, which is God telling you, just do it. Don't worry about how they're going to respond. You have no idea, and it doesn't matter. I was talking with someone earlier today. They had gone to an office, a service office, and they sat down by a gentleman who seemed to be in a lot of need. And they just sat, and he just talked with them. He just talked. But then his heart said, I need to pray. to this person. And it's not like he held his hand and made a big deal out of it. I'm not even sure the person he was sitting next to knew that he prayed for him. But he did. And he was impacted by that because there was something so strong in him that said, pray for him. And he did. I don't know the result of that, but I know the result of prayer. And I know the result of following your heart. So what does it look like? What does our spirituality look like out there? It looks like exactly what it looks like in here. It's no different. It's no different. It's just do it. Because you don't know the face, you're afraid to do it, but do it anyway. Because that's what we're here to do. Connect and love one another. That's what we're here to do. One of the things that we want to do also, again, in terms of taking things out there, is to be contemplative. To be contemplative, meaning to think. Just to sit still and just think. Just think about it. You know, just what does that mean? Why did that happen? Whatever it is that you want to think about. One of the best ways that I have of being deliberate with my life, and that's what I'm encouraging you to do, just be deliberate, is to think about something that's happening that I wasn't quite happy with the outcome. I wasn't quite happy with the outcome. I wasn't happy with myself, perhaps my response. It doesn't matter. But when I go into meditation in the morning, I ask about it. I journal about it. Because when I journal and I say something like, I was really upset about blah, blah, blah. The next question that comes up is why? Why were you upset? Well, I was upset because I don't think I showed up correctly. Okay, and so what does that mean? I'm not living, whatever, you understand? I get to have a conversation with my higher self by being contemplative. Whether you write it or just ask it out into the void. That's what we get to do. So be contemplative. Take a moment to think about and be deliberate about what it is that you want to do. Mother Teresa again says, seek the face of God in everything. Everything is God. You know that. We already know that. I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm going to say it anyway. See the face of God in everything, in everyone, everywhere, all the time. See his hand, God's hand, in everything that happens. Whether you understand it or not. Whether you understand it or not, see that. That is the contemplation of the heart in the world. If you want to be contemplative, see God in everything. That is the highest way to be contemplative. All right? The paradox of also sitting there thinking, I talked about this last week, is that there is thought. But we can't just sit in our chairs in a meditative state going, and then think that, who's it? Job. Who's that? Money. Hello. It doesn't happen. You have to take action, right? From the place of knowing, we also take action. So we want to have a bias toward action. Part of the problem, if you want to call it one, but part of the issue with new thought people is that we new thought it. We're thinking all the time. All the time thinking. What does that mean? Why did this happen? At some point, we have to move forward. Okay? Just do it now. Just do it. Okay? Just do it. Have a bias towards action. Peter Drucker says, have a bias towards action. If something needs washing, wash it. If something needs fixing, fix it. There is, on Amazon's website, if you go to Amazon, which is just the big gorilla in the room, and just everything is bought from there, my stars. But their leadership principles are all kinds of things that you would expect. You know, be trustworthy and, you know, be a stand-up guy, all that. But they also have one that says a bias for action. That's actually on their website. Have a bias for action. And they don't actually explain it, except to say this. Many decisions and actions are reversible. Okay? And so you do not need to extensively study. We value a culture of action. Okay? So just take action. Because whatever you do, you can change your mind about it. You're not stuck with it. But until you do, you don't know not to. Right? You don't know what's working until you do something. So have a bias towards action. Have a bias towards action. So what is different? And what's going to be the same in 2020? That's up to you. But decide what is working for you, whatever it is. Just think about it. I'm just asking you to take a look at your life and say what is working. And if it's working, do that. Just do that. If it's not working, stop doing that. It's not working. Stop doing it. One of the things that Maya Angelou says, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't think she said it quite this way, but this is what it meant. Believe people when they show up and show you who they are.
Oh, yes.
Believe it. It's not going to change. So the same thing. If something shows up the way it shows up and it's not working, it's not going to work while you keep on doing it. It's not working. Stop doing it. Right? It's not working. The people are who they are. They're not going to change. Either you like that or you don't, or you want to be around that or you don't. But it's not going to change. So find out what you like doing and do that. Stop doing what you don't like. Stop doing it. That's all we have to do. So, what do you believe? What do you believe? You become what you think about all day long. And whatever you focus on grows. Those are the laws. Those are the universal laws. Whatever you focus on grows. All right? So what's in your life? We attract like minds. We attract like minds. We're in the same room because we think the same way. Basically, we think the same way. So what's around you that's not working? Think about what you're thinking about. Why is it in your life? Because you have the power to step away from it. Yeah, this isn't working. Sometimes we're just in something because we're used to it. Right? We're just used to it. It's the way it's always been. It's an old friend, and I don't want to hurt their feelings. But aren't you doing that already because you really don't want to be around them anyway? You don't think they can feel that? You've changed, they've changed, and it's no longer working. Stop doing that. Okay? Love them enough to say, I love you, but we're not the same anymore, and so I'm moving on. It's okay. That's a decision you get to make. That's a decision you get to make. So what's in your life? Take inventory. Change your mind if you need to, or keep it. We connect spiritually by living from our authentic core beliefs. If you don't know what they are and you want to do a little bit of work, I have some forms out there that's just a little thing you can take, just yes and no, true or false. And it just tells you where you are. And if you want to make some changes, make them. And if you don't, don't. It's your life. I'm just letting you know where the control is in your life and what you can do if you want to see something different in 2020. Namaste.
Please join me as we give our tithes and offerings. Divine love. Blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am grateful.
And we welcome back Soul Candy.
We just want
want to say we're so happy to be here this morning.
Thank you so
I don't know why it took me so long to find this place. I live in Fort Worth.
Really? How crazy. Wow.
Not 10 minutes away, y'all.
Lovely, 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 lovely.
Beautiful, beautiful place to see us. So grateful for being here.
Oh, we're grateful you guys are here.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Thank
Blessing.
you. Feel free to get up. Dance, clap, run, and dance. You may not like the color of my skin. You may not like the social class I'm in. You may not like the way I wear my hair. You may not like the silly clothes I wear. I'm gonna love me anyway. I'm gonna love me anyway. I'm gonna love me anyway. I'm gonna love me. Thank the band. They are fabulous.